I've seen way too many shop owners and managers and that. They'll schedule training for their staff, but they don't go to the training.
Mm-hmm.
To me, if you're trying to teach responsibility and accountability and the value of training, why aren't you going to the training with your guys?
Welcome to the Gain Traction Podcast, the official podcast for tire business. I am Mike Edge, your host, and I have the privilege of interviewing the tire dealers, shop owners, counter sales reps, technicians, industry executives, and other thought leaders of our industry. This episode is brought to you by Tread Partners. Tread Partners is the leading digital marketing agency that specializes in digital marketing for multi-location tire and auto repair shops. Tread Partners works with clients that have hundreds of locations down to 5 locations. Get a professional, unbiased opinion and let Tread Partners review what you're doing. It starts with a simple conversation. To contact Tread Partners, visit treadpartners.com. So let's get started. Welcome to the Gain Traction Podcast, the official podcast for tire business. My guest today is Andy Fiffick, founder and CEO of Radar Complete Care, Car Care, and Tire Centers with 11 stores in the Cleveland, Ohio area. Andy is no stranger to the podcast. Andy, welcome back to the Gain Traction Podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Well, glad to be back.
Well, you were, we're going back probably 3 years at least, probably 4 actually, because we've been doing this 4.5. You were one of our first ever guests on the podcast, and we did not do video at that time. So this is a new experience.
Wow. Time flies. Doesn't seem like that long, Mike. Well, congratulations on 200 plus.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a great ride. It's been a lot of fun, and we just keep meeting great folks like yourself and have fun doing it. But today, I know we're going to talk about culture, and I'm excited to let our audience know some of the things that you do and why culture is so important to you. But for those that don't know you, let's talk about Andy a little bit and talk about where you grew up and how you got in automotive care.
Oh my God. Well, it's been 50 years. It's actually been more than 50 years. I started, my dad was always mechanically inclined. So I was the oldest of 6 kids, and Dad always needed to make ends meet. So he was a diesel truck mechanic when he got out of the Army. He actually was a sergeant of the motor pool in the Army, and he used to fix tanks and Jeeps in the Army. When he got out, he worked as a diesel truck mechanic.
Nice.
Make ends meet. He fixed cars on the weekends at the house and evenings, so I would hang out with him in the garage. And at the age of 6, one of my favorite pictures is I got a picture of me helping him fix a Studebaker in his garage.
That is cool.
So I got my career started at 6 years old. By the time I was 12, we had a full-blown business on the weekends in his garage in the backyard. Dad built a 24 by 28 foot garage, which was pretty big for its day. And we had a valve grind machine in there, and we did valves and tune-ups and brakes and clutches and just about everything. So I'm a very lucky guy. But by the time I was 12 years old, I knew my calling. And
that's so cool. But the cool thing about it is, as Americans, apprenticeships used to be the big thing, right? You grew up underneath somebody, whether it was a dad or an uncle or somebody that basically took you under their wing, and they showed you their expertise. And then by the time you'd still be a relatively young man, you knew your career path and you were already good at it per se.
Oh yeah. Yeah. 12 years old. Think about it, 12 years old, I was grinding valves, lapping valves, put clutches in, doing points and condensers.
You couldn't even drive yet, technically. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I was.
I know. I get it.
Yeah. Actually,
one of my favorite stories is my granddad. He was old school. He used to have a farm about 20 miles south of us, and he would let my brother and I take the tractor on the highway to go around to his brother's farm where he would do some work. And we were 10 and 9. Well, there's nothing better than being on a country road and having 10 cars backed up with adults waiting to get around you, and you getting to pull over and tell them when they can pass, and
power.
Exactly. That at the age of 10, it just felt like you're king of the road, but no, at 12, it's fascinating that you could already fix cars.
Yeah. Now it's, we used to go camping because that's the only vacation Mom and Dad could afford. And I used to drive the cars around the campgrounds all the time, so.
like this.
Dad wouldn't let me out on the road, but around the campground, yeah, I could drive. I was always a big kid, so I could touch the pedals. So yeah, but no, I was very lucky, and I say that all the time because a lot of people don't know what their calling is. And by 12, I knew, that was it. So I was very fortunate. I learned those lessons very young, and let's face it, it was very easy in those days to kind of know everything about cars. I mean, we had drum brakes, we had points and condensers, we had carburetors with chokes. I mean, there was not a lot.
There was no computer, right?
Yeah, and all the cars were the same. If you knew drum brakes, you knew all brakes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you knew points and condensers and how to set a choke, you could tune up every car. And then, when we hit the 80s and emissions controls, and I should say the 70s and emission controls, everything got complicated. Remember the Hondas when, emission controls on the Honda was a nightmare. They had 1,000 black hoses that went vacuum controlled everything, and not one of them was identified. Everything was a vacuum controlled emission control, and not one of the hoses were identified to go to anything. We'd have to mark every single hose where it went to. So we've lived through a whole bunch of changes. Now I think it kind of came full circle where now we have so much computing power and so much help assisting us. You have to be much brighter today to fix the vehicles, but we have a lot of assistance along the way now, that do, but to help us get there.
Yeah.
But you have to be very bright to be able to figure out what we do today and know how to use the computers and the scanners and everything that goes along with fixing things today. But, it's been a 50-year trek, and everybody asks me when I'm going to retire. And my simple answer is from what? I mean, this is my life.
Right.
I get up every day and I love what I do, and I love interacting with our teams. And we got 11 locations, and each one of them is a little family to me.
Yeah.
And I just love going and hanging out at the shops and helping them and sticking my head under the hood and what's going on with this. And I learn just as much every day going into the shops as I did in the past, and keeping up with it and keeping up with the technologies and the training, which kind of goes back to, we're going to talk about culture today was, our theme, and I think probably the number one thing with culture is leading by example. I never ask our people to do anything I'm not willing to do myself. When I walk into a shop, when I'm walking through, I park not in the parking lot typically at any of our shops. We're almost out of parking spots in our shops all the time. So I park on the street typically all the time, or down the street or across the street, because I want to leave room for our clients to be able to get in the shops. In many of our stores, our technicians have to park not in our parking lot because we don't have room. So I'm no better than anybody else. If they got to park off site, I got to park off site. I'm picking up trash in the parking lot on the way in.
Nice.
I expect my staff to do that. I'm going to do the same. So to me, leading by example is that. And I've seen way too many shop owners and managers and that. They'll schedule training for their staff, but they don't go to the training.
Mm-hmm.
To me, if you're trying to teach responsibility and accountability and the value of training, why aren't you going to the training with your guys?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm probably the last guy that's going to fix a car in our whole organization, but I want to be able to discuss it with my team, and I want to be learning with my team, and I want to be able to understand it so that if I'm doing a TV show, a radio show, or I'm going to one of the high schools to talk to the young people that we want to join our industry, I want to be able to talk the talk too.
Amen.
So I think it's just as valuable, but it's even more valuable as part of our culture that I believe those things, and I want you to believe those things. It's important to me, so it should be important to you.
Well, and I like your example about learning, because I think great leaders always say you never quit learning, right? I mean, and we don't quit learning till the day we die. I mean, it's just it's got to be ingrained in your culture, your whole being, I think. And like it's like reading books. I mean, I'm not a fast reader, but I always try to have something going, and just picking up knowledge on whatever I'm interested in the day.
Yeah, that unfortunately, I think people that's like that, I'll spend way too many times. You get hooked on catching up on things. Next thing you know, it's midnight. You just keep going and going and going, and there's so much more to learn all the time. And then the culture too goes so much more beyond the basics, the simple thank yous, and congratulating on the job well done. And the reverse of that is, I think, even more important, realizing when somebody's having a tough problem on a job and then helping them understand what they're doing wrong and taking that as an opportunity to coach them through the learning process. What didn't they understand? Why they didn't understand it, and help them through it, and making it a learning experience. You never degrade them for doing something wrong. Use that as a coaching and learning experience. Go, hey, here's why that nut busted on you. You went in there too aggressive on that exhaust bolt.
Yeah.
There's ways to get exhaust bolts off without breaking them. If you go in there like the 800-pound gorilla, you're going to break them every single time. Especially up north where we're at. I mean,
Yeah.
we got rust and road salt get us all the time. I remember we hired a guy from down in Tampa. He spent his whole career in Tampa. His wife was from Northern Ohio here. Her family, her parents got sick. She wanted to return home to be near her parents. So we hired him, come up here. He was breaking every nut and bolt on just about anything he touched up here because he never learned the finesse on how to get off rusted bolts.
Yeah.
It took me 6 months to teach him how to work through the rusted nuts and bolts because there is an art to it. You got to learn how to tighten them a little, heat them a little sometimes, back them off a little, tighten them again. There's an whole art to working with rusty bolts. But he never had that experience down south. When you're in, mid-Florida, you don't have the salt from the salt air getting them to them, so they don't rust down there. You just whip them off.
Yeah.
So being part of culture is training along the way also without demeaning.
But I also like the pat on the back thing you mentioned because my dad used to be a coach, volunteer coach, not like full time or anything. But one of the things he always said is sometimes you'll meet these kids. If you just pat them on the back, he said, they'll go through a wall for you.
Yeah.
And that's all they need. They don't need to be berated. They know they made a mistake. What they need is hey, I got a guy supporting me, and he'd pat him on the back, and he said it's fascinating to watch some kids, their level of enthusiasm, sense of belonging, whatever you want to call it. Then he goes, hell, I could get them to go through a wall for me after that.
Yeah. And it's recognizing birthdays, work anniversaries. That's the easy thing. We go much farther than that. Each one of our teams, we try to do one big event every year for some kind of employee appreciation day.
And this is for each shop, right?
Each shop is a little bit different. Some shops want to do different things, but we've also done for all locations, like we've done a big clam bake before, and that's circling for next year right now, that I think we're going to do a clam bake for all 11 shops. And think about it, 11 shop is going to be about 150 people, so doing a clam bake for 150 people is a big undertaking. The hardest part of that is picking a date, just trying to pull everybody to get one date is hard. You'll never get the right date for everybody, but we try.
So what are your hours typically through the week for each store?
Our hours are 8 to 6, 5 days a week is our typical hours at the stores.
Okay.
That's another part of culture. In the early years, we were a 6-day, full day, 6 full days a week operation. And as our group aged, we got so many guys that's been with us 25, 30 years that it's just like, hey, boss, my family's growing up. I need to have more time off. So it's either you try to hire more people and slide Saturdays off here and there. And as you know, that's pretty hard to do these days. So we started giving Saturdays off here about 10 years ago, and it evolved in that we just not work Saturdays anymore. But we have our free loaner car fleet at each one of our stores, so our clients aren't indisposed anymore. So if they need a vehicle repaired over the weekend, we just give them a free loaner car for the weekend, and we fix their car and through the week. And the clients love it.
That's awesome.
It really boils down to the clients now call up and say, hey, what day do you have a loaner car for me? I want to bring my car in. So they'll schedule their appointment by when they get a loaner car, not necessarily when they want to come in.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, you there's opposition to that thought process out there. There's some guys saying, oh, you got to be open 7 days a week if you want to be successful or whatever. But you're proving that your culture is more important to you in that regard. And then I guess from your management side, it's easy because you know what, 2 days everybody gets off.
Yeah. And, our guys love that, as our group matured and they need their weekends off to be going camping with Boy Scouts or Cub Scouts or Girl Scouts. They got, travel sports teams. These guys, they want to live their lives. When we grew up in the industry, that, the fathers, hey, I got to work. That's just the way it was. And that excuse was acceptable.
Yeah.
In society today, that excuse is no longer acceptable.
Yeah.
And I could see that, because my father missed pretty much my young life. They just worked.
Yeah.
And today that is not acceptable anymore. And I could understand that. And it really, I'll tell you, the secret was when we first started to look at it, we said, okay, we'll stay open Monday and Thursday night late in lieu of staying open Saturday. And then it just turned out that everybody's, well, you know what? If we keep our numbers up, boss, we don't have to work late Thursday night. We'll just stay late Monday night. And then it evolved. Well, the numbers kept getting better all the time. Well, then we don't even have to stay Monday night. So it totally evolved on it. The numbers kept climbing and the gross kept going up and they just kept getting better at their jobs. Like, well, we're already working 60 hours a week, working, 10-hour days or 50 hours a week, working 10-hour days from 8 to 6, let's just drop the extra hours. So it evolved into just 8 to 6, 5 days a week. And that's where we're at. And everybody loves it. And we actually hire people away from other shops because they don't have to work weekends and nights and holidays.
Yeah.
So it's there.
Well, you were talking about, one of the things you had mentioned before we did this call is something that you do every year. And you jokingly said, I gain a lot of weight in that week, but you take out for lunch. You go to not just the events that you do once a year, but you go and have a Christmas meal with each store. Is that right?
Yeah, that starts, that starts on the 10th, Monday the 10th. Every day we'll be visiting with a Christmas dinner for each one of the shops for 11 days in a row. So Bill and I will be taking a really nice dinner to each shop for 11 days in a row and doing a nice Christmas dinner and handing out Christmas gifts and bonuses to each of the teams for 11 days in a row. So yes, I will be gaining a few pounds, but that also goes along that all summer long, I have a portable tailgate grill that goes in the back of my pickup truck. And every Tuesday, I pick a different shop and we just rotate all summer long. We go grill out brats and burgers and hang out at one of the shops every Tuesday all summer long. And we grill up brats and burgers at the shops.
Oh my gosh. So you're constantly engaged with each shop then.
Yeah. Every week we're at one of the shops grilling. And then when we're not grilling, we're just visiting 2 or 3 shops a day just to stay in touch.
That's fantastic.
One shop per week gets to grill throughout the summer months, and then then the other shops just get a simple visit. So yes, we stay engaged all the time.
I would say your turnover is low.
Next to none.
Yeah.
Yeah, next to none. You'll get that occasional turnover, and it's usually a young person still finding their way.
Yeah.
Yeah. We lost a young one this year. He was with us about 3 months, and he decided literally to relocate out of the state.
Yeah.
He was doing okay. But he had a cousin that lived up in Michigan that had some kind of good gig going, and he decided to leave the state. But that was only one we lost this year. We've lost a couple guys that followed their wives out of town, for the same reason that the parents, the parents aged out a little bit. It's like, I got to follow my wife, they go take care of her parents. We've lost 3 over the last 10 years to those kind of events, but you
but
can't.
I mean, you're talking about roughly 150 people, and you're only giving up 1 to 3, 5 people a year. You're doing all right.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is. It still hurts, and we still keep in touch with those people.
Yeah,
they're still part of the family. But
that just screams positive culture. If you're not turning over people, and they like it, but I love the fact that you're so engaged. But I mean, like cooking every Tuesday at one store, visiting some every day, but then the Christmas stuff, and then the annual events that you have for each store, and they get to pick what they want to do. What else you got going on? Because these are all great ones.
Well, we do a monthly meeting the third Wednesday every month. We get all the managers, assistant managers, shop foremen together. We just literally go over the good and the bad and ugly of everything that happened through the previous month. We review all the numbers. We talk about all the specials we got coming up, everything going on with advertising. We usually pick one or two topics to discuss. We always go around the room and go, what problem is this shop having and how do you want us to help you handle it? So it could be a disciplinary problem. It could be a sales problem. It could be anything the guys want to talk about. We get together as a group. Typically, there's 25 to 30 people in the room, and we just talk. And it really keeps the camaraderie going. What's nice about that, too, we have our own Radar app also that we all belong to. So as somebody will be saying, hey, we got a 1980 Miata, whatever, and anybody have a timing tool for this or whatever. And we just share the advice between each other. So when you got 25, 30 managers and assistant managers in on that app talking about it, there's no problem the group can't solve together. So we act as one big unit and one big family. So the culture not is only in each shop, the culture is between all 11 stores also. We act as one big family together. And it just really works well. And it's something like this, when you get that oddball, anybody got the wiring diagram for a Canadian Magnum? I remember when coming out, we got a Dodge Magnum from Canada, and the wiring diagram was totally different than what anybody had in our systems. Mitchell didn't have it, all data didn't have in that. And it ended up, I had to reach out personally to the Dodge dealer to get that wiring diagram.
Wow.
Because it wasn't in any of our databases. So that, and another thing I like to do is I like to sit down at least every quarter with the stores that I own, because I own two of the stores that are still franchises of mine. I like to sit down with each employee every quarter just going, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Well, just to talk to them, because everybody is on an annual performance review type thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of the old standard. I don't think that's enough. You need to, I think, be engaged with that person at least every quarter. Hey, how's it going? Anything more we could do for you?
A lot can happen in a year. I mean, a lot.
A year is way too long to be able to be in touch with them. So, you wouldn't talk to your, you would not know if there's something seeding underneath if you didn't talk to them at least every quarter. And then once a month, I like to set the whole team down and at least have a group chat. Hey, what's going on? And you'll find out, the lift and bay number 3 has been acting up, and nobody tells you. It gets, the lift's been leaking oil. There's an oil line leaking on lift number 4 for the last month. Nobody says a word. So until you set them down in a group, what's going on? Hey, do we have any problems with this or that? Oh yeah, the light over here has been flickering. It's always the dumb little things. But I think part of the culture too is give them all the tools they need and make sure all the tools work that you give them. Because you can't expect your team to do a great job for you if you don't give them the tools that they need to do a great job. So I never want to hear the excuse that, we didn't have the tool to get that job done right. Because then that's on me. If I expect them to do a good job, I expect myself to give them everything they need to get that job done. Culture is just so encompassing. There's way too more than, just, it's not a birthday card. It's not a simple thank you. It's everything about the shop.
That's just the beginning.
Being involved with the shop.
You mentioned franchising. Are you guys still franchising?
Yes. Yeah. It started out, and I think we probably covered this last time, but, I got to store number 2. For those of us who don't know us, I had store number 1, and I didn't want to open store number 2 until I had store number 1 100% rock solid, because I did not want to lose anything when I opened store number 2 in case something went wrong. The last thing you want to do is overstretch. And, by the time I got to store number 2, I was a new father. I had 2 little kids. I had a house. I had my wife. I got her situated. I didn't want her working while we had 2 new babies in the house. She was helping me in the business. I thought that was enough. So I bought the building for store number 1. I said, okay, now if anything fails with store number 2, I could always fall back on store number 1 and we'll be fine. So I opened store number 2 up, and as soon as I had 1 year into store number 2, the guy I had managed had come to me with his wife and said, hey, how could I have my own store? I said, geez, I don't know. Let me take a look into this. So I went to my attorney friend at the time. You didn't need an attorney, back in those days. And I said, hey, my one guy wants to have his own radar shop. And I said, how do I do that? He said, well, let me look into it. And he goes, here, you got to call this guy. You got to franchise your name. That's how you got to do it. So that's how I became a franchisor. To do it right, I had to franchise. And I'll tell you the dirty little secret. I told Chuck at the time, well, I'll sell you a franchise for $5,000 because the guy told me it'd be about $5,000 to franchise. Cost me $6,500 for the paperwork, and I sold my first franchise for $5,000, so I lost money on the first one. And so a long story short, it took off and things start running well, and the word got out that, hey, you could have a Radar franchise in Cleveland, and it's a good gig, and it just starts selling franchises. In retrospect, I think it's the best thing we did, Mike, because if you think about it, in today's environment, my franchisees have to worry about their store opening every day, and they have to worry about, having people and worrying about their staffing. If I had 11 stores and I had to worry about having 11 managers showing up and turning the key every day, that's a lot more stress than worrying about my franchisee being there because they're there to open their own stores.
Yeah, it's just that personal incentive. They own it.
So they have more to lose than I have to lose by being there. And we got 9 awesome franchisees.
Yeah.
And I should say 8 because one has 2 stores.
Gotcha.
And so in retrospect, I always wondered if I would have done better if I would have just kept opening company stores. But now at this point in time, I'm so glad we franchised because I got 8 awesome franchisees with us, and they are great. And as you see, Bill Snow is part of the franchise company now. He started as a franchisee.
Yeah.
So it's come full circle.
That's fantastic. Well, Andy, I am very delighted that you came back on the Gain Traction podcast, especially now that we have video. And I really appreciate you being here and expressing what you do with culture.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate being here. Thank you for the time.
Absolutely. So to all our listeners out there, listen, we're all over the social media. Find us out there on YouTube. Please like and subscribe to us. And if you ever have any suggestions that you'd like to give me or recommendations, please email me at mike@treadpartners.com. Till next time, have a great day. To all our listeners, thank you for being part of the Gain Traction podcast. We are grateful for you. If you'd like to find more podcasts like this, please visit gaintractionpodcast.com. If you'd like to make a guest recommendation, please email me at mike@treadpartners.com. This episode has been powered by Tread Partners, the leader in digital marketing for multi-location tire and auto repair shops. To learn more about Tread Partners, visit treadpartners.com.